part 8.3, Java Annotations. First, let me give you some, this introduction on Java Annotations technology. Because in our servlet configuration, we use it. That at web servlet, that annotation, hello. Okay, but what is the idea behind it? What are the rules for annotations? So this video, I just give you the minimum we need to understand servlet annotations. Later, if we need to use more features, then I just add when we need them. All right, so let's do this short introduction. All right, first, Java annotation, this technology was added since Java version 1.5. 1.5. Actually, you just look at this 5. Because this 1, Java people, they always add a 1 point something. Even the current version 11, version 12, they, sometimes still call that 1.11, 1.12, right? So always 1, So that 1.5, you just look at that 5. Okay, version 5, you can call version 5. All right. Since that version, annotation was added. And it is a very successful technology. So right now, it is very popular. Most of the Java code, especially advanced Java programs, contain a lot of annotations. So you have to understand annotations. Otherwise, you couldn't understand other people's programs. All right. So let's look at the basics first. Annotations are tags. All right. So treat it as tags, okay, that you insert into your source code. So you do annotations in your Java source code. So there's some tool. Later, there are some special tools process different annotations. Because usually one Java program can contain many different annotations. So then you may require several processing tools. So this part, tool 1, tool 2, tool 3, several tools to process. All right. The tools can operate on source level. So that is one way to do it. So from your source code, the tool can read, parse, do some processing. That's one way. Another way, the tools can also process class files into which the compiler has placed annotations. So here, what the compiler does, suppose you have a Java program. Okay? The compiler will compile your Java source. So here, I'm looking at the, so your Java program. Okay? So the compiler, okay, compile your program to bytecode. Remember? So in Java, it's called bytecode. In the bytecode, the compiler divided into two parts, part 1, part 2. Okay? So this part, that's the Java instructions. Okay. Binary version, we know. Compiled Java instructions, for the real executions. Yeah. Then the annotation translation part separated from Java instructions. Okay. So these are the annotation part. Okay, annotation part separated. Yeah. Two parts. So then the tools, annotation tools, the annotation tools does not need to touch the Java instructions. The annotation tools can process only this annotation part directly because it is separated. Yeah. So here, the second part tells you the processing tools can process the compile, the class file. Okay? Class file, that's the compiler, the binary class file. Yeah, so this is the class file. .class, okay? .class file. Tools can read the binary class files, but only read that annotation part. Okay? Yeah. So that's the internal things that happen for annotations. Yeah. All right. Next. Annotations do not change the way in which your programs are compiled. Yeah. Separated, right? So the compiled part keeps the same. If you use annotations or no annotations, the Java instruction part keeps the same. Yeah. Annotations only change that, top portion, annotation portion, that part. Yeah. The Java compiler generates the same virtual machine instruction. What's the virtual machine instruction? That's what I drew, that binary Java instructions. That's the virtual machine instructions, the bytecode. That is the bytecode part. Yeah. With or without annotations. If you use annotations or you do not use annotations, the bytecode part, the virtual machine code part, exactly the same. Yeah. So that is the property. Okay. Yeah. So then you may ask, if exactly the same, what is the point to use annotations? Yeah. Annotations used for configuration, added extra information. Yeah. So you want to manipulate the resource this way, that way. That's the annotation part. So it's not the execution, instruction you need to do, in your coding level processing. It's not that. Yeah. It's the configuration, connecting resources. So annotation used for connecting resources, that part. Yeah. All right. Next, add an annotation. Yeah. So that's easy. Yeah. We have seen it. Yeah. In Java, an annotation is used like a modifier. So you apply it on something, modifier. You modify something. And it's placed before the annotated item. So we want to annotate servlet. So we apply it before our servlet. Modify our servlet. Right? So in that way, yeah. Without a semicolon. Yeah. That's important. So let me recall in our annotation at web servlet parenthesis hello. Do not add a semicolon here, okay? Do not add a semicolon here. Yeah. The reason is clear. We know semicolon is used to mark the end of a Java statement. Annotation is not a Java statement. Yeah. So that's why we do not need a semicolon at the end of an annotation. Yeah. All right. The name of each annotation is preceded by an @ symbol. Yeah. Then next one, precedence. Because we can use two ways to do a servlet configuration, web.xml way and the annotation way. Which one takes the precedence? So that means if we do both, which one has the higher priority? Yeah. For that question, web.xml has the higher priority. So you apply two ways. Yeah. Then the web.xml way will override that annotation way. You may ask why people may do two ways, right? Why people may do two ways? Yeah, there are some reasons. Yeah. The annotation way, usually when the programmer creates that servlet, it does that annotation at the same time. Yeah. But later, so when people want to change the behavior of the whole web application, so people can do it inside web.xml. So you change the behavior. So definitely you like to do it in the web.xml to change the behaviors of the whole web application. That change you put in the web.xml will override individual servlet annotations. Yeah. So that makes sense. Yeah. All right. Next, why use annotations? Yeah. All right. Here, yeah. Annotations rely on processing tools. So without processing tools, annotations are useless. Yeah. Annotations will be ignored by the compiler without annotation tools. Yeah. Then no configuration related to that annotation. Yeah. So it is still, so you can compile, you can use that code, yeah, but you will not have the added extra information features. Yeah. But sometimes you will see, so when you write Java programs using some annotations, but the tools are missing. The tools usually are the Java classes. Yeah. For annotations, other programmers develop annotation processing tools using other Java classes following certain specification. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So in order to process those annotations, you need to download those Java classes, put in your library class path, then your program can use those annotations. So annotations associated with other Java classes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you need to use annotations that your processing tools understands. Yeah. Yeah. So that's why annotations and the processing tools come together. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. The main uses, why use? Yeah. The main reason using those annotations, automatic generation of auxiliary file, configuration, auxiliary, the hidden, those auxiliary files are hidden. We cannot see, but they will have some, features. Yeah. They will have some impact to your web applications. Yeah. All right. So such as deployment descriptor. Yeah. So that's what we are talking about. Web.xml. Yeah. some extra information will be added to the web.xml, but in a hidden way. We cannot see those added information in a hidden way. Or being information classes. So, and other types of configurations. All right. Automatic generation of the code for testing. So you can use anything to do testing, logging, transaction, many things. So you can see with this technology, people can do a lot of complicated configurations in a relatively simple way. Let's recall the old way before we use annotations, the old way. A lot of configurations, very complicated in Java. Extremely complicated. Actually, developing Java web application, the hardest part is the configuration part. The coding part, usually not that hard, but configuration part, extremely complicated. So that scared a lot of people, a lot of programmers. Later, when the annotation technology used, then configuration part is greatly simplified. So now programmers love that technology. All right. Purpose. Make the configuration easier. So you can see, the biggest impact, make the configuration easier. And it is very successful. All right. But one thing we want to say, annotations cannot completely replace web.xml configuration. Cannot replace. Several things web.xml can do, but annotation cannot do. So we will see those things later. But there is another thing. Here I can point out, another thing. So let's compare two things. One is web.xml configuration, the traditional configuration. Another is annotations. Annotation way configuration. These two ways. So here you can see web.xml way using the centralized way. Centralized way to do configuration. Annotations use the distributed way. So you distribute configuration everywhere. So many different Java classes everywhere. All right. So you can see centralized way has a lot of advantages. Distributed way has its own advantages, but at the same time, it also has its own disadvantages. Because when you want to modify your configurations for distributed way, it is very hard to modify. Think about it, you have hundreds of Java classes. You want to modify the behaviors. You need to open each one. So that's very time consuming. But if you modify behaviors in a web.xml, only one file, you just modify one after another. So you can search, you can order, you can manipulate only one central file. All right, so let me stop this topic here.